With the new ban and errata list, I really just kind of want to try another video type that's more like discussion and just kind of update in terms of the game. And so there were two things that were released. Obviously, the ban list here that we're going to look at, and then there's the design article they wrote. But let's get into the list because it's very short. Band card, Immortal Shapeshifter, and Errata to combine firepower. So you've been playing the game for like the past year, really just a few months, right, with the release of certain decks, then you knew that at least combined firepower had to come in. And Immortal Shapeshifter is a little bit of a shocker, but I think there are reasoning for it, and overall it is probably a safer thing to do, but I am also a little shocked. I'm also happy since I was thinking about buying these, but thank God I did not. Anyways, Immortal Shapeshifter, 2 difficulty, foundation, 5 check, 3 high block. Response check of 5. After one or more of your foundations are destroyed, you gain 1 health. And enhanced destroy 1. This attack, meaning yours or your opponent's, gets 1 damage to trigger itself, which is fine. Now let's read a little blurb. Over the course of the last year, there have been a lot of support for the health gain deck archetype. To power the payoffs for this archetype, we have created some cards that give you a benefit for each time you gain health, regardless of amount. Cards like False Visage, Picture, and Recuperation Time, Picture, being the key players. Immortal Shapeshifter supercharges these strategies, turning every trigger into an extra trigger for each copy in play. Outside of these interactions, Immortal by itself can create some game states where players facing down multiple copies of the card feel like they can't progress in the game state. While we still have our Iron Recuperation Time, we would like to see how it fares without the aid of its powerful partner that we felt required more urgent action. Yeah, so I think this card was a little shocking to me because outside really of like Ymir and then a bunch of just like a random package of just extra health gain and survivability, which I don't think is necessarily bad, this card is really powerful. Mostly because of Ymir, but she's also not like, say, a top 10 character. She maybe is, but she's not a character that obviously you have to... She's not the character that like just auto wins practically like a lot of other characters. You actually have to be careful with her because she's a 7-hander with low health. She can just sometimes blow up, and in particular, she wants to take hits to lose health to then gain it all back. But that just depends on the strategy, and so you just have to be very delicate and careful with your blocking and deck building in regards to her. I do think that because of rotation, she's a lot weaker now with the cards that new training method and a few other like good life cards are gone. That she's a lot more fair, at least, because the insane build defense ability that she has is crazy for a aggro 7-hander. But anyways, back to Immortal Shapeshifter real quick. This obviously just increases all in your first card. You're able to basically gain all like 3 health and then beyond for your mirror. Even outside of the defensive things, obviously this is really good for offense in her in particular, and she is one of the best 7 aggro handers that you can play at the moment. And this card I do think is a problem because of that insane explodability and just, yeah, like this article says, if you have multiples of these and even like 1 recuperation time or multiples of those as well, you're probably just not gonna die because of the health gain and then the minus damage from that. So I do think like this like this could have been a unique card. I think it actually would have been fine. I think that would have been a fine errata too. I'm kind of glad they didn't errata it, but we'll get to that in the article about bans and erratas later. But I think this is a little shocking, but at the same time, I'm not sad or upset that it's gone. We'll put it that way. Combined firepower. This is the thing that needed to go, or at the very least needed to be touched in some way. Combined firepower. 1 diff action, 3 difficulty, mid block, 5 check. This card does not count towards progressive difficulty. Response from the discard pile. After you remove a card to pay a cost, you may try to play this card during this attack. So that could be to play its ability, its enhance, or to even block with it, which is really good and cool. And then enhance mill 4. This attack gets +1 damage for each non-foundation milled this way. So I guess we'll look at the text first. The old one is obviously from discard pile. After you remove a card, you can play it. The new one is King Ghidorah responds. Only the guy in the picture, King Ghidorah, can end up playing it, which is probably how it should have been. Or what I've heard from other people is the giant or the keyword monster type that they have. I want to say it's giant, not kaiju, even though that would have made more sense. Would have made sense so that way Rodan and like the Bionic Menace Mechagodzilla could play it, and obviously Ghidorah. But making it Ghidorah's main thing is totally fine as well. It's still good and powerful because you can still use its enhance ability. Anyways, combined firepower has been a point of conversation ever since its release. Its early use was mostly confined to King Ghidorah and Rodan. After the first Attack on Titan set came out, Risky Encounter and a group of cards that triggered after being milled entered into the fray. This created some powerful decks that required action at that time. We banned the Risky Encounter, and the competitive success of the combined firepower fell significantly, all the way up to and during Nationals and Worlds tournament season. With the release of Critical Role, we have seen many decks effectively utilizing Combine in a way to try and accelerate their game plan to win games as early as possible. This game plan got a large boost from the Foundation Science Bros. This interaction provides a ton of stats as early as turn 2, as you milled through multiple possible remove triggers from Combine's mill, and the number of decks utilizing Combined Firepower this way effectively has reached a breaking point. That is quite dramatic wording, but also not inaccurate. That leads us to today's action. Combined within the confines of its original play pattern is a unique and interesting card, but we need to heavily restrict its access to prevent some of the interactions causing negative play patterns. Thank God. We've been crying about this card and like that type of deck practically forever. It all really started with these one diff powerful, just mass mill cards that you can play multiples of, and like also are just like so cheap for things. Again, we'll talk about this really more so. Actually, I'll talk about it here a little bit before the Banlist errata thing. This card obviously needed to go. Honestly, it really hit a breaking point to me just in this last few days or week during the Let's Play UVS or whatever and TAM event, the online one, whatever. You have this character picture on screen now of a character from Undaunted Raid, I believe it is. All right. He's literally just a random who cares character from My Hero and that whole arc, right? Just another guy with a mask, edgy edgelord, who cares, evil guy, right? Who cares? But they're playing it because of the symbols he has. I think he has like air and death, maybe void. I don't quite remember. But all that matters is that he had a symbol that lets him utilize this and other cards, and particularly, I'll put on screen, the Wand of Action, which is exclusive to characters from those set. It lets you clear a card in your card pool. Also, and you remove it for cost on action for play it. So you're able to just play a Combined Firepower, play this action, which is also one diff, remove Combined Firepower, remove itself rather, and you discard the Combined Firepower, and you're able to play more. And assuming you do also have the other ones in discard pile, you're able to play all those as well. Plus the other just really super good foundations or ways to clear cards in card pool, like forcing surrender. Just able to get rid of Combined Firepower, play it again, play other ones. It's just they build the fact that the decks and all those things revolved solely around this card. This was the difference between the deck. It was Combined Firepower and not Combined Firepower. Right? It was either you saw one and you saw all of them and you just won, or you didn't see any of them somehow and you just lost because this is your main way of dealing damage and like getting a huge absolute monster of a move, right? And in that same tournament that I was talking about with this random who cares character, not only does he play like 3 or 4 of these for one move, it also gets up to like 20-30 damage really quickly right away, which is insane to think about. And I'm all for a good turn 2 when it's like really difficult. It doesn't happen very often, but things like that were happening very often, of moves that were just getting insanely big, hitting well over 20 something damage and knocking the character out, right? And honestly, just I'm really glad about this. And yeah, like honestly, just this needed to go. I would have preferred either a different type of errata, like I said, like the giant or the keyword for those monsters in that starter deck, just so that at the very least they can use it. But I think this is fine, or a ban. And like I said, I think you could have given Immortal Shapeshifter errata, or errata it to say unique instead. Because if it's unique, you still get this really powerful, good ability, but you can only have one of it. Because like they even say in the article, having multiple of this on board is kind of crazy. And especially if you do have multiple of recuperation time. Insane. Anyways, that's the article, that's the updated list. I think it's really good, obviously, just for, hey, my firepower. Anyways, this was just a fun little thing I want to throw in here. Designing Universus, the challenge with B and E. Banning and errata. Banning versus errataing. Historically, when we choose to take corrective action on a card, we have done so dependent on the card's type. For non-character cards, we use bannings when they become too powerful. For character cards, we have taken the path of using errata, or updating the word on the cards to balance their power level, but leaving them eligible for play. The reason we've made this distinction is because for many fans of a world that we visit, a particular character may be the most compelling part of the game for them, and losing access to that character may drive them from playing. This is less true for non-character cards. While Errata is a clunkier solution for power balancing, it requires tracking data not represented on the card. We've chosen this path for character cards and plan to continue doing so in the future. Over the past few years, however, one of our new product lines has made our approach of only banning non-character cards a little bit more challenging. Ha ha ha. A new challenger emerges. The adoption of Knott's Flask from the Critical Role Challenger Series decks proved to be powerful enough for us to need to take power balancing action on that card. At the time, we chose to use Errata, with our reasoning being that because the card was a part of a Challenger Series deck, and because Challenger decks are pre-constructed decks you can play out of the box, banning a particular card could lead to a feel bad for new players. They're likely to be excited to try out their new deck, so to be told they have to replace a card, or worse, face a tournament penalty, is a bad first experience with Universus. We chose Errata for Knott's Flask as a one-off solution. Since that time, a second Challenger deck has proven itself worthy of action, Combined Firepower. As Jeremy announced Tuesday, with 2 instances of needing to adjust Challenger cards, we made a decision as a game design team we would utilize Errata for Challenger Series cards instead of banning them outright, to ensure the deck integrity remains for players purchasing the deck to play. This wasn't the only option we considered. We looked at banning the card outright, but again felt this was a significant feel bad for players excited about the Challenger deck experience we built for them. Another consideration was banning cards, but allowing them to be played only if they were in the original Challenger deck construction with no changes. We felt this was a bit cumbersome, that was a close second option. In the end, using Errata in this new fashion was the decision we felt was best for the long-term health of Universus. Closing thoughts. Banning and Errata on cards are key parts of power balancing that allow us to push the boundaries on playability in design. A Universus world where there are no corrective actions necessarily would be boring, and a sign we weren't pushing up against the known constraints of what's possible in play. We'll continue using the ban cards Errata characters rubric as our default choice moving forward, with the added caveat that Errata is the preferred option for Challenger Series cards. So that's the article. I think it's really interesting because I think this whole last bit really does open up and start an interesting conversation about bans and erratas and card design as a whole for a game like this. Because what they're basically admitting, and this is to no fault to them or bad to them, like this isn't talking trash or whatever. I mean, it is a little bit, but that the fact that they've had 2 really powerful cards come out in these new challenger decks and that they've proven to be an issue is kind of an issue, right? I said it's no fault to them, right? A good card is a good card, and I'm sure they do some amount of testing, but it does make me wonder the amount of planning, other things that goes on behind the scenes. Obviously, there's no fault to anyone in particular, right? What happens, happens. And honestly, like I agree with their last part in particular in regards to this of they're trying to push the boundaries and push where they can do the most with these cards. Because reading a lot of these new cards, especially for like Attack on Titan going forward, you read the card and you're like, whoa, like this would have never happened in like My Hero set 1 or 2, which is cool. And I do like the fact that they're outwardly saying like we want to experiment and try for things to be as crazy and off the wall, dynamic and fun as they possibly can, right? And that they're willing to say, yeah, we messed up for these reasons and we thought it'd be fine, which I highly respect and love to play with. This is a lot better than say like a Yu-Gi-Oh! Banlist or something where it's just these cards are gone or at 1 or 2, no reasoning besides the fact that you all know that they're OP, right? And so I do love that when they have these articles for banning erratas and this, because even just this little blurb about the errata and showing it is very good and shows that they actually do care about the game and like watch it as well, which is good. But yeah, I do agree largely with their philosophy, right? In terms of you errata characters because the character kind of matters more so for player experience, and you can ban other cards, which is kind of fine, right? And then they can always release new versions of them. But then that's also weird for purchasing. It's an interesting conversation in regards to that. And then I don't know. And then my little critique of all these things is how do they not know cards like Knott's Flask and Combined Firepower were going to be good? Because they share a general type of being a 1 difficulty super powered card that you just jam at 4 initially, of course, because there's no reason not to play it. It doesn't like mess up anything, and they were in the same type of deck, the Casino Mass Mill decks in particular, which that obviously was showing and saying that those decks were really powerful. And I think like in the same way, like Knott's Flask is now just basically a dead card because of its errata. to being unique and just like randomly milling 3 cards is good, or however many it does, and randomly giving +3 -3 damage, whatever it does. I don't use Noxpass a whole lot. Is really good. But then when you have multiples of those, because you can just play all of them because they're also 1 difficulty, it's no wonder this card is so good. You're going through like 12 cards with all 4 copies at the very least. I don't remember how much it mills. Same with combined firepower. But I think the worst part with combined is the mass mill is obviously really bad, and the ability to play it out of anywhere is also insanely bad. But then like the insane icing on the cake for me of how OP and crazy this card was the fact that it doesn't count towards progressive. I think a world where they either releases or they errata the difficulty to like say 3 for combined firepower would be a lot better with just that, because on your first card you have an attacking card pool and you play that on a 4. You can fail that check, or at the very least have to commit 1 if you check bad, assuming you're not playing 4 checks. And then it doesn't count as progressive, which is fine, I guess, right? But then if you want to play another one, it's still getting, you still have to check it on a 4. So you always run the risk of having to commit like 1 card. I think that'd be a lot more interesting because it doesn't count towards progressive, right? It's like Crow and Frog Takedown for all my Hero Set 1 fans out there, right? You play it on the 5, so you risk still checking bad on this card, but then it doesn't count towards progressive, which is largely fine. But when you check bad on it, you're still playing a 5 difficulty card, which somewhat matters. So that was at least my little thought with like what they could have done with combined. But I think changing the card's difficulty is a lot worse and harder to really do for erratas than changing the card text. And same with Knott's Flask, although that's a little more interesting and difficult because of like the same thing, the difficulty of it. It's a lot worse to try and errata the number on it as opposed to just some card text on it. Like if you make that a 2 difficulty, I think that's largely fine, maybe even 3, but I think 2 is actually pretty fine, and you don't have to give it errata, and that's kind of deserving, right, of like the -3 damage and the mass mill. And I think that's as well, you can't commit it because it's an asset. I think that would be a better way of doing it. And like I said, this is just cards like those cards have just made me question somewhat, and other really powerful cards on release question their testing methods, if they even do that at all. This is no hate. I'm just like a little surprised really OP things that like this exist, because in particularly combined power, like I said, it's just crazy. It doesn't count towards difficulty. It's 1 difficulty, and you can play it and trigger it from anywhere multiple times on symbols with cards that allow you to discard and use it multiple times, right? The fact that you can use it more than like the 4 copies you have is kind of crazy. Anyways, that's it. I just wanted to read through the article, talk about it. I think it's really interesting on the type of erratas they're ruling for it and banning of cards, and also just like did Immortal like really need it? I think it would have been mostly fine, but it is what it is. This needed it, obviously. But that's really it. Hopefully I like it when they release these articles of interesting discussion and stuff. Even like their Albuquerque one, which maybe I'll do that. Probably not. But yeah, that's it. This is the video. I'll see you guys next time.